Welcome to Making Sense, the Guest Spotlight. My name is Alison Blackler and I have had the privilege of talking to some fantastic guests over recent times. You can hear their interviews here. I hope you enjoy. So I am privileged to be joined again by Shelley F Knight. She was with us a few months ago now, and I've managed to get her back for a chat about her other book that she's going to tell us all about. Hi,
Hello.
Shelley.
Hi. Bless you. Thanks for having me back on the show. Yeah, so last time I spoke about Positive Changes, a self-kick book, which is my first book, which is quite humorous. But my second book, very long title, I can only apologise, is Good Grief, the A to Z approach of modern day grief healing. And it's not humorous at all. And it's kind of a journey because my background's nursing and then I became very spiritual later in life. And so it talks about grief, but probably not in a way that people expect. So it does deal with grief, as in death of a loved one, but I think that grief is loss of anything with which we have an emotional connection. So that could be our body shape, our health, a job, a relationship. And I think it's really important to talk about this because obviously we went through the pandemic, and in that we lost sort of confidence, control, health, security, jobs, finances, you name it, we lost it. You know, and it impacted on our mental health. And I truly believe it triggered a grief process in all of us, but we didn't identify it. So yeah, I wrote Good Grief during the pandemic, and then here we are with lots of us struggling with our mental health.
Oh, I love that. I love the idea of really thinking about loss almost in a quite a unique way, really. And it sounds crazy, but we don't pause to think about losing other things, do we? I mean, a lot of people talk about relationships, intimate relationships, but actually you're right, we can lose so much of ourselves through different experiences that we have.
Yeah, we truly do. And, we have this real mentality, don't we, here in the UK, just like, oh, well, wasn't meant to be, carry on, chin up. And you're like, you're heartbroken, or at least heart bruised, I think. You might, identify with your job role and you've lost that job during the pandemic. You think, who am I? Even like becoming a mum, you kind of lose your identity as well as your body, if you think like I went through. But, we're always experiencing loss. In Good Grief, the book, I talk about mini deaths. So it's where no one's died, but we're losing things in our life and having to find that resilience, that ability to bounce back. And we just don't give enough time to grieve, think, what on earth is going on? How do I overcome it? And I think that just then impacts even more onto our mental health. We don't think you're grieving, do you? If, your boyfriend leaves you or you lose a job, you don't think of it as a grief thing.
No, and I think that's the problem. We don't pause enough, do we? We are on to the next thing. I can experience that myself. I used to be able to just brush myself down and think, okay. And then something that happened to me personally was I then had a loss that almost grounded me because I think my unconscious mind said, oh, why are you here? There's all these other things that you've never, ever dealt with. And I'm a really big fan now of really getting people to just pause after something has changed in their lives, so that they can reflect, learn the good stuff, because even when something horrible happens, there's usually something that we can take as a positive, although occasionally they can be difficult to find.
Yeah, and I love that you shared that because there is like a secondary loss. And I'm a great believer that when we go through something traumatic in life, that there's like, an emotional memory as well as the physical and things like that. And so what happens, like we go through life, and it might seem really unrelated. Like for me, I've had numerous miscarriages. I speak quite openly about that. I've had like numerous miscarriages. And, for years and years, I wanted a child and I didn't get that take-home baby. And it's only when we was buying a dog, I kid you not, that we went to get a puppy and the man sold it to someone else. So I didn't get that puppy to come home. And it triggered so many of my miscarriages. And it doesn't make sense on the outside, I know. But because the energy was the same within me, the emotions that were coming up were the same, I was a mess over a cockapoo puppy. I kid you not. And it is because we don't deal with things at the time. I was getting older, so we kept trying for children, wasn't dealing with the miscarriages. And, it's when we went to buy a dog later in life that all of that muck come up, all of those sticky plasters ripped off. because we don't stop, and we're so focused, aren't we, on healing. You know, you go through something, quick heal, deal with it. There's so much richness in the trauma, in that sort of hurt, and we just, you know, skip to the end, jolly hockey sticks and all that. And actually, in that pain and rawness, that's where the learning comes. But, you know, we have to sit there, and it's not very comfortable. But yeah, I'd encourage people to sit there for a while.
Yeah, me too. And I know that some people I've said that to, sit with your yuck. They often look at me like I'm losing it. But there is so much wealth of our growth in those times, isn't there? But thank you so much for just sharing that, Shelley. I know that's a personal story, and I know it is something that you do share a lot, but it is still nice for you to still say it, because I'm sure when some people hear that, they can just hold themselves a bit tighter and know that it's okay to be not okay in these situations.
Yeah, and I see it a lot, that people go through something and they think they're going mad. I mean, grief can make you feel like you're going mad anyway. But I think, oh, why am I crying so much over this? You know, and like another example is that my husband's friend's father died, was at his funeral, and I could not stop crying at all. You know, and he was a lovely man, but I didn't know him for the amount of tears I was shedding. But then I realised, like when my own beautiful stepdad died, I was told, like, don't cry, let's just get through the service. And I pushed it all down, which you should never do. And it took, like, you know, someone else to lose their dad, and then all those tears come up. So, you know, if you are bereft over something like losing a job, losing health, you know, something like that, just look back, you know, go down a little timeline, make a little rough timeline and think, where's this coming from? What's coming up for me? When did I last feel this emotion? And, you know, dive on in, or at least dip your toe in the water if it's a bit too much.
Oh, I love that. And I love the fact that you are open to saying to people, you know, it's going to feel uncomfortable, but know that if you sit with it and kind of look after yourself, reach out to others, you're not alone. We often are all having some sort of experience similar to this.
Yeah, I truly believe, you can phone in if you don't agree, but I truly believe that everyone is going through something that we don't know something about. So I think even those that are just handing their way through life today, there'll be something that's coming up, you know, like worrying about a bill to pay. Did I phone that person? And so, you know, reach out to others. I think you'll be really surprised.
Yeah, I think I often hear that when I do group coaching in teams, or when even one-to-one, where people often are by this conversation, and you can literally hear that moment of, oh, I'm not the only one that's struggling with this. And definitely, like I said, in teams, I hear this a lot, where you bring people together and suddenly they realise that their colleague is actually struggling in the same kind of way or with a similar problem. And just sharing that load is half the battle.
Yeah, it truly is. There's an old saying, but you know, I was raised in the 70s, Alison, but isn't it like a problem shared is a problem halved? And it's like a truth to that, because even when you talk about something, even if that person doesn't understand or empathize with you, you do, you know, feel lighter. And I've shared before, slightly controversial, but my background was chemotherapy nursing. And so when you sit there giving the chemotherapy on a one-to-one, particularly with the breast cancer patients, it's kind of like a captive audience, because you've got to sit there administering these cytotoxic drugs. And they would talk to me about their life. You know, they're actually stopping for once and delving in. And they would say afterwards, oh, I'm so glad I got that off my chest. And you think, it just fascinates me that it was all the emotions that would come up on these breast cancer ladies getting things off their chest. And so I'd always say, get it out, because I do believe that, you know, things can manifest when we don't get them out.
I think so. And I think all that, you know, that sort of when people have sore throats and that connection with not speaking up and not saying their truth also is just so powerful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Oh, I've loved chatting with you again. What would be your little one thing that someone could take away today, if there's one small thing that they would take from you as a little nugget?
So there's 24 hours in the day, and I know we're really busy. I know that. But I would always say that to commit to 10 minutes of you time every single day. And that's not 10 minutes on your phone scrolling through social media. It's a time of no distractions, just sitting with that kind of discomfort. Like, what did I like about today? What's coming up for me in my grief? You know, just sitting in silence if you can, with no distractions. And you'll feel well, just weird probably would be the first thing that come up. Just sitting there in silence, but bear with me. But just sit there and like, ask questions to the universe, ask questions to yourself, and see what's coming up, because we do push things down all the time, you know. We just get stuck, don't we? Like, you know, setting your alarm for the morning, going to work, coming home, doing the shopping, going to bed, repeat. So 10 minutes a day, whether you're living or not, just to sit with yourself and see, you know, is life where you want it to be? How are you doing today? Do I need help? 10 minutes every single day.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, just like we said before, pausing and just giving yourself permission to do that. I was working with somebody the other day, and the thought of her taking some time out literally was such a new experience for her, because she spends all of her time running around after everyone else and actually thinking of things that she thinks she needs to be doing. And clearly she's realizing that actually that's not making her feel happy and good. So I think just that 10 minutes, and like you said before, or maybe on a previous chat, you know, 24 hours, we can find 10 minutes. Even busy people can find that 10 minutes.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's kind of like limited belief if you can't. You know, like I'm a busy mum of 4 and I work full time and things like that. And it is hard, but I just do it at the end of the day. When I'm in bed, I sit there. My 10 minutes is journaling. So just writing, like, and I'm not allowed to write down anything negative. I have to write about what am I grateful for the day that's just passed. You know, and it's 10 minutes.
It's
so
lovely.
It's not a lot. I'd love an hour, really, if I'm honest, Alison. But, you know, we'll take the 10 minutes.
You can build on it on some days, I suppose.
Yeah. Watch this space.
Oh, some brilliant tips for everyone, Shelley. Thank you so much, as usual, for your time and your energy. I love speaking to you. So thanks so much for coming on Making Sense.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.